Welcome to Gold Watch Landlord. We'll start in the middle. If you already have a house and you are gonna lose the house, you feel like you're gonna lose the house, you'd slip in away for some reason. You haven't made payments, possibly, you haven't paid the taxes. It's not even your house. Let's say it's your grandparents' house, parents' house. It's a house that you have some hope of getting title to and owning, either because you have you bought the house, or it's very likely that you could get the house essentially sold to you or transferred to you through a quick claim or some other process. You're about to lose the place because you are essentially broke, or feel like you're too broke to handle what's coming up with this event, which would be the likely losing the house. I would really I'm trying really to appeal to you to do whatever you can do to hold on to the place. Part of this series is going to be how to buy properties, how to get a hold of a property. And if you already have one that you're interested in renting out, then you clearly can't live there and rent the house out at the same time, unless you're doing roommates or something like that. That's not really landlording. It is and it isn't. But if you can find a way to live somewhere else, if it's a 3-bedroom house, for instance, and you can live in a 1-bedroom apartment, or rent a house, maybe rent a small house somewhere for less than what you could get as the rent on the house, that'd be the first step I would appeal to you to do. Once you have failed to pay the taxes, once you have become behind in the mortgage, there is some crazy app, whatever it is, some crazy miserable thing that puts your name out and your property out to the public. And you start getting crazy phone calls from people, annoying phone calls from people that want to buy the house from you and save you from this situation that you're in. They want the property, they want to take it from you, they want to own it. You're going to find people coming out of the woodwork trying to get your property. I've been to many tax auctions, and what happens with the tax auctions, in my experience, is that where I live, they put out a book about that thick. It's kind of a 200 pages, loose bound with big paper clips through it. And it lists all the properties that are coming for sale in the next 5 or 6 months. These are people that are in arrears on their taxes. They're not necessarily going to lose the place. Most of them will come up with a way to pay it off, or they'll listen to a person that calls them and tries to buy it from them. A person with a lot of experience. One time I had a conversation with a guy at one of these tax auctions, and he told me, these places aren't really going to be, when they come up on the auctions, they're not on the book or on the listing, they're not really going to be for sale at the auction. What you got to do is find out who the person is, contact them, and try to make some kind of a deal to help them. You want to help them out and get them out of this tax problem, but you want to get the title of the property. This is what's going to happen. This is the kind of, you can call it predatory if you want to, you can call it unethical, but that's what happens. Those people that wait, my experience, waiting for the auction, and this is what I did several times. I waited for the auction, I bid on a property, and it went for a price that was ridiculous. In fact, I started to just go to real estate agents at that point. I went to real estate agents and asked them what properties they had that were in fair to poor condition where the price was very low, and who they had, and they typically had banks, they had elderly people that lived out of town and could no longer handle the place. If you're in one of these places yourself already, if you already are in a house, or your family member is in this place, and you can cut through that and save the title of the place, keep it in your family. If you can do that, by any means, and by any means I'll tell you, I personally have moved 3 times from where I lived and rented the house out. I had a Holloway. I don't know if you know what a Holloway is, but there's a low boy and a tall boy Holloways. They're what construction companies use. They call a company and they drag this thing in front of your house and put it in your driveway. Get all your hoarder stuff out of it, get all your junk, throw it away. Put it in that dumpster and say goodbye to it. What you need, get into a U-Haul and bring it either to a storage place or bring it to your apartment or a smaller place that you're going to live in. Another option is there's a guy named Bob Wells on the internet. I have seen him on YouTube. He's got I think he's got a couple of thousand or more videos. It's called Cheap RV Living, but it's basically nomadic life. Yeah, it's homeless people. It is in a way it's homeless people. But some of those people that choose to live in an RV, they choose to live in a very comfortable RV, actually, not the ones living out of their car or in a van. They're landlords. They own a house somewhere. They own a house in Canada and they go down to Arizona. They own a house, many houses. One woman, I won't call her a girl, she's kind of a girl to my age, but she's probably 30-ish, 30-something. She has her office in her RV. She uses Skylink or something. She has a really good internet set up. And she travels. She lives in the RV and she manages her properties. I presume she has professional property managers in each location that she owns a house or apartments. And they handle the day-to-day. Because where she is, she can't get up in the middle of the night and go and snake a toilet out. She's got to go to, she's got to call her people that do that. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe he has a list of 4 or 5 really good handymen. And that's all these property managers do anyway. They have handymen who come and do the work. Handymen in the area, they come over, they don't rip her off, they don't add on prices, add on jobs that aren't unnecessary. People she can trust, and they handle it for her. If you can get out of your house and get a good rent for it and try that option, you might be able to save the place. You've been living there, you know honestly what's wrong with it. You know if there's a jam up or roots in the main drain, or if the lights are flickery, if they need some kind of work. You don't have to have the place in the kind of condition where you want to sell it at the highest price. It doesn't have to be spotless, it doesn't have to be professionally painted or anything like that. But you can get the weeds cut down, you can get concrete that's broken, you can get it leveled out, have someone take the bad pieces out, level it. You can make it look okay. Good enough to rent, safe to rent, make sure you have all the carbon monoxide sensors, fire smoke detectors that are necessary. Make sure that it's safe for someone to live in. You wouldn't want to put someone in that house if it wasn't safe. But if the place you have is within that range where you can get it fixed up and you can get yourself out of there and get yourself living somewhere other than that house, that can be your first rental. Once you have a chance to do that, you go through a process of learning the landlording business, because you have no choice but to do things ethically and responsibly. Pretty good idea what you're thinking now. You're thinking, You don't know me, you don't know what I've been through, you don't know my situation. You thinking that I'm just talking to somebody who's stable financially, is not really in any real financial problems. I do get it. You're so broke that you want to cry. But you own a house still. You still have a house. There's an old term for that which is called being land poor or house poor. Land poor and house poor is how millions of people, I wouldn't even say thousands, millions of people are living land poor, house poor. And it's always been that way. It's always been the case that people don't have thousands of dollars in the bank saved up for a crisis. You have to get your mindset where you need to do whatever you can do to keep that property, to not lose it to the sharks, because the sharks are coming. They smell blood in the water and they start circling. Where I live, there's a art exhibit being shown, which consists of all of the signs that are nailed up, stapled up to telephone poles, put on boarded up buildings, put up on fences that say, "We will buy your property." I want to make it clear that I do believe all's fair in love and war, and I do believe that you've got to get the mindset to make the most important thing to hang on to your property and to acquire properties for rental properties. In future episodes, I will go over many of the ways to acquire property. I'll talk about limited liability companies. I'll talk about limited partnerships. Where I live, what LLCs actually come down to being, trusts. I'll go over all those things. I know that it's very detailed and I don't want to start on that basis. I don't want to overwhelm or run you off. I want you to understand that your mindset is very important. You might have become somewhat, I wouldn't call it brainwashed, but you might have become somewhat depressed or somewhat saddened by the reality of who it is that's putting up these signs, "We buy your house," "We buy houses." It's hard to compete with that. It's not easy. However, you've got to think of the long run. You want to keep what you have, and you want to acquire places that you can afford and that you can actually manage in the long run. I wouldn't get too obsessed with that. I wouldn't become deranged over all the sharks that are out there. You need to clear your head of those types of obsessions. Don't be obsessed with what other people are doing. You need to get your mind in the right place where what you're doing is the most important thing. What you are doing, keeping your house, keeping a duplex if that's what you own already. Hang on to that property and do what you need to do to keep it. It's very easy to get sidetracked and obsessed with nonsense that really means nothing in your actual life. The other thing is, people don't necessarily want to see you succeed. Even your own family, your brothers, sisters, cousins, your parents, your own spouse, your own husband, or your own wife may not really want to see you get ahead. It's kind of an odd thing to have to face. You're going to be, as a landlord, you're going to be moving into an area where they feel like you must have done something illegal or unethical to you have gotten those properties. How did that happen? Why aren't they owning a house? Why aren't they in position to rent out apartments and properties? What did you do? What did they do wrong? You're going to get just a lot of haters, for lack of a better term, that will try to slow you down and stop you. If you've already become somewhat brainwashed to this, you need to deprogram yourself. You need to do a little self-help and self-care. You need a little clarity. Get your mind clear of all that nonsense and take the actions that need to be done. I've outlined the simplest, which is get out of the place and rent it to somebody else. Wherever you're going to live, rent it out. If you want to proceed and buy properties, getting with a bunch of other ladies into a limited liability partnership is not crazy. It's not, you're pooling your resources essentially. You may not have the money to do that. Some of these people that we buy houses, they have a bank. They are essentially a bank. They don't go to Bank of America or Citibank and ask for loans. They already have someone with the money. It's hard to compete with that. So you need to get your finances straight. You need to get your head straight. You need to save some amount of money. And if you have a property, for goodness sake, hang on to it, because getting another one won't be any easier. In conclusion, it's really up to you whether or not real estate is affordable right now. You've got to prepare yourself. It's better to be prepared and not have the opportunity than to have the opportunity and not be prepared. Get yourself as ready as you can for stepping into, I would say, a real estate agent's office. The options can work. Flipping tax liens, I guess. I've never done it. I have some reservations that it's kind of a strange business. Also, people are now selling what they call buying and flipping zombie loans, where a person had taken out a second mortgage that was either they thought was forgiven or was forgotten, and they bring it back. It's like a junk bond. If you're familiar with stocks and bonds at all, junk bonds are degraded bonds that have gone down and sell for a fraction of their face value, but people buy them in the hopes that they can group them together and sell them. That's been happening for a very long time with mortgages as well. The mortgages that were hard to collect, they were grouped and sold. If you want to be a landlord, which is what this is about, that type of side real estate based, it's not really even real estate based, it's just opportunism that may or may not work out. I wouldn't go into that. I would not advise anyone to do that, particularly if there's a person that is the manager of that and you are just a limited liability company, you're just a partner who's putting in money. I don't think that's smart. But get yourself prepared. If you are helpless, if you are a helpless person and that's been your identity, if you will, that you're helpless, just try to step back and take a look at that with some clarity and think, why would you value that? Why are you investing in yourself as a helpless person? Maybe you receive benefits from the state or federal benefits, and you feel like if you make any kind of moves, you'll lose your benefits or something, and it's better to be kind of helpless. And I don't know that all the benefits are necessarily lost, frankly, if you own a property or even two or three or several. I don't think if it's income based, sometimes it doesn't matter, but you gotta kind of look at that. If you're a young person, for instance, let's say you're in your 20s and you've decided that you're helpless. That's just a weird outlook, man, for your future. I don't get it. You might want to just try to step back and take a look at that. Take a staycation or vacation, sit at the park, feed the ducks, and think about why have I classified myself as a helpless person? Why would I do that? You gotta wonder. And maybe it's funny, you'll laugh at it, but the very next thing you need to do is check your credit score, free credit report. You need to go to perhaps a dispute company. There's some that they're fee-based. If you try to do it yourself, it sounds a little complicated, but there's some fee-based dispute companies that are online that will try to get some of your credit hits removed or reduced. It is ethical to do so if they're not clearly stating why you owe them the money, what's wrong with you challenging that. But it requires getting your back up a little bit and going after some of these steps to improve your credit, to get some income. And I'm not saying sell plasma to the hospital, which is what some people are doing. I mean, broke is broke. It's a fair statement that you're broke, so broke you want to cry, but there's got to be some steps you can make that make you a little more in control of what's going on. Thank you for watching.